Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a Fighter Warlock Multiclass Build guide for in Baldur's Gate 3. So this is actually a very powerful build because we're going to be taking advantage of the Pact weapon, allowing the fighter to get 3 attacks before they normally would. We can get this at level 10 versus the level 11 that the fighter gets its triple attack at. So that is really nice. I would recommend starting with the fighter. The reason being is the fighter gets proficiency in constitution saving throws. So if you want to hold concentration on spells, you're going to have a nice bonus by starting with the fighter. You also get all the heavy weapon or the heavy armor and shields and martial weapons. So it's best to really start with the fighter, but if you want, you can go the warlock. I just think that's way better to start with fighter. And what's nice with the fighter is you get a fighting style right at level 1. I personally am a big fan of defense. Get a +1 armor class is always going to be useful. Dueling could be good too, though, if you're going to be using a shield, which I would recommend for this build. The extra 2 damage is pretty big, but I'm going to go with the defense just for the +1 armor class. I think that that's probably one of the better, easier options, especially early on. Now, what's interesting about the Warlock is we can get the Pact weapon, which lets us use Charisma as our attack roll, which is really strong because we can get our Charisma higher than any other stat. Ideally, I think I'll show you what the stats would look like if we're not dumping any stats, but you can also dump stats to make this work a little bit better. So something like 16 strength, 14 dexterity, 14 constitution, and 14 charisma would work great if we don't want to dump any stats. Now, we're going to be, once you get the warlock, we can, dump our strength a lot because we're going to benefit from our charisma being the main spell casting modifier there. So we can even go with something like a 16 dexterity, maybe 14 constitution, and then the rest of the points into intelligence. So something like this. That would work well as well, but you can go with those stats that I showed you at the start there if you're going to be doing this as you level up. Now, what makes a fighter great is it gets access to all the different weapons, and it has heavy armor and action surge, which gives us an extra action, which really strong. We'll get into why and we get into the gear, but for our subclass, the Battle Master is a pretty good one, but I think the Eldritch Knight is actually pretty useful here because this is going to give us spell slots, and spell slots are separate from the Pact magic that we get as a Warlock, so we'll actually get our level 1, 2, 3 spells and then some from the Warlock as well, which is quite nice. The Eldritch Knight does allow us to do a few different things. You can go with the Battle Master, and if you want to go that way, check out one of my Battle Master guides so you know which of the maneuvers to pick. But I think that the Eldritch Knight is actually the best option here, and I'll get into why as we go through this video. As for our cantrips to select, damage cantrips aren't going to be our best option, I'll be honest. It's actually better to go with more utility-based ones. Now, we do get some that the Warlock won't get. So the Warlock gets Friends. The Warlock does get Minor Illusion and all the others. They just don't get these damaging ones. I don't love to use cantrips on a build like this because it's better to just damage, but Bone Chill can stop the target from healing. Shocking Grasp can stop the target from using reactions, and it'll be doubled with water, so those can be nice options as well. I'm going to go with Minor Illusion and Mage Hand just for the utility it brings. Minor Illusion can group enemies together or take them out of rooms. You can use this to steal from them. And Mage Hand allows you to throw health potions and water bottles to set up cold or lightning damage. So I think that those are 2 great ones. But you could go with alternative like a Firebolt or Shocking Grasp if you wanted to. I just don't think they're the most useful. As for our spells, we actually get some interesting options here. I think that Shield is one of the best to go with. When you're about to be hit by an enemy, you increase your armor class by 5. You take no damage from magic missile. So this is a reaction that's going to increase our armor class. It can prevent us from getting hit, so that's really nice. We want something like that just for survivability's sake. Thunderwave can give us a bit of a pushback. We're typically not going to want to damage enemies with our spells. We're going to be using them mostly for crowd control. So while some of these are nice, I think that Magic Missile is probably the best because if you can't hit a target with anything else, sometimes you can hit them with Magic Missile, and that's nice. Chromatic Orb's good because you can change the damage type. I'm a big fan of Chromatic Orb normally, but it just doesn't serve a much purpose here when we can throw our weapons and get the benefit there. So we're going to go with that, Magic Missile and Shield. As for the expanded spell slot, there's a lot of benefit to taking Longstrider because this will increase movement speed by 3 meters. You can prepare this on yourself, and it'll last until long rest. So we want that extra movement speed. That's really nice. Find Familiar can be also a really good spell to take. Having that Familiar around can be useful for taking attacks that you would normally get hit by. You can also go with the Chromatic Orb here. So these are wizard spells that we wouldn't normally get. We normally would get Longstrider, but taking Find Familiar can be nice just for the utility that it brings, and having another target on your team to spread aggro is always nice. But I think Longstrider is the best spell here, but we can take it later on. We also get the Weapon Bond, so this automatically returns weapons if you throw them. This doesn't actually stack with the bind weapon that we get from the Warlock, but you can actually put them on. If we use 2 weapons, we can use them on both. But I'm going to show you, I think, the most powerful way of doing this. So at next level, we learn another spell, and Chromatic Orb, I guess, is a decent one to take, so we can go with something like that. Or Thunder Wave if you want the pushback, because we're going to be getting up close. And sometimes that pushback can actually knock people right off the edge, so that's actually kind of a nice one to go with. Because we don't want to really focus too much on damage, because this isn't going to be as powerful as a spellcaster. But for our feat, I think that going with an ability improvement to take our charisma up is going to be important. While we're not using charisma right now, we will be. So that is a nice stat to have high as possible. You could also alternatively go with like a dual wielder and use 2 weapons, give +1 armor class as well. But I think that increasing charisma just is the option to go with here. Now level 5, we get our extra attack, and that's really the biggest focus of this. So we'll take that, and then we can add in the Warlock here. Level 6, we'd get another feat, but what we can do is add in the Warlock, and I think the best cantrip, obviously, Eldritch Blast. What's nice is level 7 Eldritch Knight allows us to attack after using a cantrip, so we can do our blasting with Eldritch Blast, and then also attack, which is kind of crazy. We'll go with Friends there, but also Bone Chill. Bone Chill can be good, actually, if you're not the face of the party. The face of the party should have Friends, but be mindful on harder difficulties. It will aggro enemies after 10 turns. Bone Chill can be nice to stop target from healing, so we'll go with that. Now, as for our subclass, there's some interesting synergy. I was thinking of doing a critical hit build and using the Grand Old One for their Mortal Reminder, but with my testing, Mortal Reminder not as awesome as it sounds in my head. It's actually hard to get that area of effect frightened off. Typically, you will get like maybe one other target with it, but most times not. The Fiend, however, gives us Armor of Agathis, Arms of Vidar, and the Dark One's Blessing. This will heal us when we take down enemies' health. This is really nice. As for the spells, I think that Armor of Agathis is great. 5 temporary health points and cold damage to enemies that hit you until long rest, which is awesome. But Hellish Rebuke is a good reaction that we can use. So the next attacker with flames deal 2 to 20 damage. Hex is also a decent one to add extra damage to our attacks, but we can always take that at our next level. This doesn't actually give the disadvantage on ability of choosing isn't as good as it sounds. It's only really useful in wisdom to help out with any sneaking you may be doing, but we're going to go with that Armor of Agathis and Hellish Rebuke here. I think that's pretty powerful. Now for our next level spell, that's when we can take our haste. Command is also a pretty decent option too. You can go with something like that. As for Eldritch Invocations, Agonizing Blast to add our Charisma modifier to the damage it deals from Eldritch Blast is huge, and Repelling Blast to push them 4.5 meters away. No brainer, those two are just really great. And then we can take Devil's Sight at next level, or at level 5. Now for our spells. Hold Person is really good. I think that this is one of the best spells that we can get. It's underrated for sure. Hold enemy still, attacks from within 3 meters or critical hits. We don't often have concentrations, but the fighter has that advantage on Constitution saving throw proficiency, making Hold Person actually really strong. So we can use this, hold person in place, attack, 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 and there's actually a unique synergy that I'll show you guys here once we get into the gear. So for our Pact boon, we're going to take Pact to the Blade. So this allows us to bind Pact weapon. It allows us to attack using Charisma instead. Really nice. Pact to the Tome gives us some spells, but I think that's obviously we're going to go with this because we can get 3 attacks at level 10. So level 4 Warlock, we get ourselves another cantrip. Anything but True Strike, really. True Strike's just garbage. Now, I think there's a couple that are really good here. So we could go with Misty Step. Surrounded by solar mist, you teleport unoccupied space. That's nice. Scorching Ray is also good for fire damage, but almost not as effective as taking something like Command. Alternatively, you can take off one of these. If you don't find yourself using Armor Vagathis or like Hellish Rebuke, you can swap that out. We get ourselves a feat at level 4 though, which is awesome. So we can bump our charisma all the way up to 20. That's just honestly the way to go there, because we want to have our charisma as high as possible. Now at level 5, this is where we get our level 3 spells. So Fireball, very tempting. Fireball is really great. Fear can be another one, illusion spell, which we can benefit from with the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, allowing us to cast this as a bonus action, which is kind of nice. Hunger for Dire is really great though too. Concentration, which we don't have a whole lot of concentrations, and the command that we just took isn't concentration based, so Hunger for Dire seems to be one of the best options here just for the increased damage, and it's the Warlock spell. Devil's Sight, though, is what we want. So this allows us to see in darkness, both magical and non-magical darkness, up to 24 meters, which is huge. This is the only way you can see in magical darkness, so we're a drow, we get ourselves... I'm playing as a drow, half-elf, so we get darkness, the spell, which we can see in as a warlock. So Deepened Pact gives us that extra attack with our Pact weapon, which is huge, so now we get the ability to attack at level 10 3 times. So a fighter normally wouldn't get this ability until it gets to its final level, but we can attack here, or until it gets to level 11. But we can attack 3 times at level 10, which is awesome. Now for the final levels, you can go with the Warlock to get ourselves some more spells. If you really want to go with the spell casting route, I personally think it's better to go with the fighter. We're going to get another feat, but at level 7 we get our subclass feature, which I'll show you guys. For our ability score improvement, this is a tricky one because it's tough. We could go, if you want to go the throwing route, we can go with Tavern Brawler. I think that this is actually pretty strong. Ideally you would have taken like 15 constitution, so you could buff that up to 16 this way. Or you can use the Constitution Amulet. Tavern Brawler adds our strength modifier twice to the damage and attack rolls on thrown weapons. We have a thrown weapon there. And the Eldritch Knight is kind of about throwing weapons, but here is where the build comes all together. We get ourselves War Magic. You've honed your body and magic for war. After you cast a cantrip, you can make a weapon attack using a bonus action. Huge. Cantrips. Not normally amazing. Eldritch Blast, however, can attack 3 times. So that's nice. We get our +6 from our charisma modifier to our Eldritch Blast, so we can blast them real good. And then we can attack as a bonus action. Massive. As for the spells that we get, so we get 2 more spells here at level 2. We didn't take Scorching Ray previously, so you could take that. I also really like to take Darkness, because we can see in this darkness, so it actually is our benefit to take that. I don't love Scorching Ray as much as some other spells, but we really don't have a whole lot. So we can go with something like that. Now, where this build gets kind of crazy is all the synergy that we have between our spells. Now, the Ring of Flinging, if we want to go the throw focused, I would recommend having strength potions as well, because it's going to double our strength modifier to the damage that we deal. The Nirulna is, like, the problem with the Eldritch Pact weapon here is we can't throw our weapon. So it's nice if we want to focus on, like, the weapon bond here. This will return it to our hands. But if we want to use Bind Pact weapon, you can't throw the weapon, unfortunately. You cannot drop or throw it. You become proficient with it. So this is a good weapon if we wanted to focus on throwing, but we can also, there's a few different ways we can go about doing this. The Infernal Rapier, which we get from Will's questline, is also a really good one. This automatically does use Charisma as this attack modifier. It also gives us a summon with the Cambion Planar Ally, which is really nice. We have a beefy armor class of 27, which I'll get more into in a moment, but even like the Sword of Life Stealing can be a pretty decent one on critical hit. A target takes an additional 10 necrotic damage, and you gain temporary health. That can be good. I like the Sword of Chaos too. That's a 2-hander weapon. And there's a few different options we can go with, like the Phalar Aluve sword we can go with. You got a lot of freedom in terms of what weapon you choose since we're using Charisma. I'm just going to stick with the Infernal Rapier because I love the fact that we can just summon in this Cambion here, and this gives us someone with pretty good amount of health that can help tank some hits, and then we aren't really, like, it gives us a bit more survivability. Now, the typical way about doing this, we want to have, I take up the Ring of Flinging here, and put on the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel. So, after hitting a creature with a weapon attack, you can cast illusion or enchantment spells as a bonus action. So, we can attack, and then we can cast Hold Person, we can cast Command, and we can also upcast Command. Command Grovel knocks creatures prone, which will critical hit them on attack. We have 1, 2, and 3 level spell slots, so we can use our Warlock ones. We get some decent, like, that's not amazing for spell slots, but considering we're mostly a fighter, level 7, that's pretty good. So we got a couple options, which is really nice. We have perfect synergy between actions and bonus actions. So if we want to attack with our action, then we can use Hold Person or Command as a bonus action. So attack, Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, we can use Crowd Control. If we want to attack with Eldritch Blast, which has a nice 7 to 16 damage, times 3, so we get 3 beams because this level, Eldritch Blast levels up as you get into higher levels. At level 11, you get that nice boost. So we get an Eldritch Blast, and then we can attack as a bonus action. So you got options to deal damage, or deal damage and deal damage, or deal damage and crowd control. It's pretty interesting how synergetic this is. And we also got that summon there, but we also get ourselves a nice little kitty cat too. So we got a devil and a cat, which is awesome. So 2 summons, which can give us a bit of extra survivability, which is always nice. And I don't think that'll, we can summon us as well. So if you have us, that's 3 summons there. Not as good as some other builds that are obviously focused on that, but the fact that we can attack, we got actions for our actions and bonus actions was huge. And then we also got Action Surge. And then on top of that, this is a prime candidate for being Twin Haste from a sorcerer. So this is an interesting build that gets the ability to attack twice beforehand, before you would normally get that double attack. So that's huge. Also 22 charisma from the Birthright hat, which gives us +6 to our Eldritch Blast. +1 armor class, +1 armor class, +1 armor class saving throws. Armor persistence reduces all incoming damage by 2, and we get resistance, so we actually half the amount of damage that we get from bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing, so we take half physical damage, -2, with the 27 armor class, so we're pretty much invulnerable. And then we also get Viconia's Walking Fortress here to give us advantage on saving throws against spells, and spell attack rolls against you have disadvantage, so we're less likely to get hit by spells. This becomes really strong really quickly. I'm also using the Legacy of the Master, +2 bonus to attack and damage roll with weapons, so we just straight up are attacking more often. We have a +18 to our attack roll, so we pretty much will never miss. That's really nice. And then our attack rolls themselves are pretty strong, so I think that this is one of the strongest builds that you can take with a Warlock. It's pretty beefy. I personally, my first ever playthrough, I went with the Paladin Warlock, and I loved that. But the Fighter Warlock is also quite powerful. So, yeah, that is the Warlock Fighter build guide for Baldur's Gate 3. If you found this video useful, please hit that subscribe button below. I appreciate all the support. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.